discussing about solution-focused breath therapy and how we are working using this approach in psychotherapy, and how we are helping the people to move from the problem story to solution story, and helping them to realize what's possible for them, which resources they have, and what they are capable of. So sometimes a person tells the story about their problem for so long that the problem stops being something that they experience and becomes the center of their identity. For instance, sometimes they are saying, I'm always like this, nothing ever gonna change in my family, I'm already in failure in relationships. And maybe they are thinking, if I feel anxious, that means I cannot do it. And in solution-focused approach, we are asking different questions and helping to realize that sometimes we need to understand the problem more deeply, but there are some traces of solution already present in your life. And we are helping the people to realize, the clients to realize that there are some instances when the problem is less. And we are helping them to see that that version of them that they want to become is already somewhere there in the past, and we are asking them questions to understand what needs to happen for this person to show up in the future more often. And rather than spending time digging into why the person has the problem, this approach focuses on what the person wants and exceptional moments when the problem is less powerful, and the resources they have, and what the next step could be. And it's not a superficial resilience. It doesn't ignore the problem, of the existence of the problem. On the contrary, it listens very carefully to micro changes, skills, and traces of resilience in a person's life. And solution-focused approach brings the center of clinical conversation the idea that the person is more than their problems, and we see them as capable, as resilient, as able to achieve the change they want to see, and we believe that they already possess the capabilities and resources that they need in order to achieve the preferred version of themselves. So one way to understand a therapy approach is to look at the questions that we are asking. And we don't ask where does this problem come from. And in other approaches, for instance, we are focusing on details of the problem. What's the evidence for this thought? We are questioning the thoughts and relationship with the thoughts. But in solution-focused approach, we are asking what's being different when the problem is less intense. And this question sounds simple, but uh, it helps to create change, because when the problem grows, the human mind tends to erase exceptions. And solution-focused approach helps to change your attention on moments when the problem is less, and when there is already small change, slightest changes that are happening. And this helps to realize that change is possible. And this helps to become aware of the lens that we are looking, considering the situation at that moment. And oftentimes when we are sad, or when we are depressed or upset, we are paying attention more to the problems, or to negative thinking, to negative sides of the situation. But when we are asking these questions, this helps the person to realize that the problem is not present 100% of the times, right? There are some times, for instance, when we are procrastinating less, or when we are having better relationships, when we are being confident, when we are being less depressed, and paying attention to those moments and discovering what contributes for this solution, what helps you to become that person at that moment, and what change does it create, for instance, when you are able to be confident, disciplined, or kind, or contributing, what impact it has on other people around you, and why is it important for you when you can be that version of you. All of these questions are helping to inspire, motivate the person, and to realize that there are certain solutions they can try, there are certain steps they can try, and we are helping them to realize that they have a lot of resources that can be used. For instance, imagine somebody, let's say Bob, is constantly procrastinating at work, and his first statement is, I'm an undisciplined person. And if we accept this sentence, as the whole story, the session might go around the causes of being undisciplined, the consequences of being undisciplined, and this would make Bob feel even more anxious, shameful, and he would constantly blame about himself. But in solution-focused approach, we are going into different direction, and we are not arguing with him, or we are not questioning his thinking. We directly go into moments when the problem is less, and we are asking, has there any moments when you were able to procrastinate less, or you were able to be more disciplined? And were there any times when you were able to finish the work and submit your homework at time? And he says, for instance, the people realize that very rarely they are able to do it, and there are exceptions. And that is where the therapy begins, and because very rarely means that the problem is not present all the time. And then the next question is follows. What was different in those rare occasions? What was there about you that made that possible? Who was there? What time of the day or the week did it happen? Which environments helped you to stay more disciplined? Or how did you divide the task? How did you manage your time? What was there about you that helped you to submit it on time? And what were you saying to yourself? What did you notice about yourself? So paying attention to exceptions creates a lot of possibilities for the person, and creates a different perspective, and helps them to realize that there are a lot of resources they can use, and there is already a disciplined version of them in the past, and this helps them to gain insights about what they can do in order for this version of them to come show up more often. So exception doesn't mean that it's a perfect moment in which the problem never existed. It may be an occasion when the problem was less intense. For instance, some people are experiencing severe levels of depression. And if we are asking them, like, when you are being happy, they might say never, because they don't feel that way. So we are more focusing on slightest changes. When are some times when you feel slightly better, when depression is decreasing, or when you are slightly less anxious? And paying attention to those moments help the person to feel more confident, more capable, and to realize that there are some moments of improvement, there is hope. And also seeing the person as capable, as resourceful, is another strategy, because philosophy of this approach is believing in your clients even when they do not believe in that sense, because this rapport, this connection is also empowering and strong, and feeling that somebody believes in your capabilities, somebody cares about you, and is hopeful about you, is already a strong connection and a resource that can help the people to stay patient during difficult times, or keep going even when heart gets difficult. And therefore, exception is one of important factors, a seed of solution. And conversation doesn't deny the client's failures or problems. It makes small forms of success visible. So if in the beginning, for instance, this patient didn't see positive moments or times when they were able to succeed, asking these questions helps them to realize that they are not failures, they are not undisciplined all the time, and this is just the story that they have created, and they are more than those stories or the feelings or the thoughts about themselves. So when we are asking questions in the first part of the therapy, we are helping the person to understand what they need, what they want, who they want to be. And we are saying, if the problem was less, what's the very first sign that you would notice about yourself? The question is not to encourage unrealistic expectations or fantasy. It's purpose to translate an abstract complaint into concrete behavioral sciences. For instance, instead of saying, I would feel better, the person might say, I would get up without checking my phone. I would say good morning to my child with a softer voice. And these questions, like, concentrating on the details uh, and helping the person to describe their preferred future helps to realize what they are already doing well and what's already contributing for resolution solution. And then uh, so for instance, let's say when we are working with refugees, asylum seekers, or newcomers, or professionals, high achievers, listening just to the problem can sometimes uh, make them feel as if they are a failure or as if they are victim. So, and it can, like sometimes maybe we even do not realize and we start to see ourselves as a victim identity. And of course, pain, loss, violence, challenges, uncertainty, health problems, all of them, they exist in our lives. But the person's survival skills, efforts to protect family, attempts to learn language, to adapt new culture or to learn new skills, faith or cultural resources, community support, and everyday moments of resilience should also be made visible. So when the problem exists, there are also these capabilities, resources, and other possibilities on the parallel level. So there is no just one reality. There is not just one reality. There are parallel realities happening at the same time, and the likeliness of us to achieve the change that we want to achieve mostly depends on actions that we take, whether we stay paralyzed, stuck at that chaos, uncertainty, difficulties, or we choose intentionally to take steps towards the direction of who we want to be. And maybe we will not be even able to complete all the goals that we want to complete, but we still have the freedom to take these small steps that we can, and we can pay attention to things that we can control. We can pay attention to our resources, connections, for instance, things that we feel grateful, and focusing on them, we can prefer to take small steps instead of staying stuck and being paralyzed in pain. For instance, imagine a patient has newly arrived to a country and feels extremely lonely, and they say, I will never make it here. From solution perspective, the therapist might ask, even on days when you feel you will never make it, what's one small thing that carries you into the next day? And like if we could focus on the problems, what was going wrong, what are some problems, difficulties that she is experiencing, and she will be drowning in those problems. But this question helps them to realize that there are already certain things that are contributing for their well-being, for improving their situation. And maybe they would find, for instance, reading a book or researching something, some strategies helps them, or maybe spending time with the people whom they care helps them to stay resilient, to stay motivated, and to stay connected. And this is where solution language begins to form, and this is where you are redirecting the person towards what's possible from the place of stuckness, and helping them to realize about other possibilities. And solution-focused brief therapy questions also are used in organizational psychology, while working with NGOs, NGO trainings, with refugees, like with everyone. And these questions can be very powerful. For instance, staff can be taught not to jump immediately into giving advice when describing a problem. And instead, we can ask 3 questions. Has there ever been one small thing that has helped you to cope with this so far? And if tomorrow were just 5% easier, or if the problem was slightly less, how would you notice? Who or what has supported you before? Asking these questions is not the same as providing therapy. It's supportive, resource-focused communication that also can be used in our daily life while we are interacting with our kids, parents, like people. Instead of blaming ourselves, criticizing ourselves or the others, we can focus on solutions and what's possible and what the person wants, who they want to be. try to choose one problem that comes to your mind. It can be involved with work, relationship, time management, anxiety, motivation, and write the problem sentence. For instance, maybe you think that you always procrastinate, maybe you say, and convert the sentence into solution search. Ask, what's different when I do not procrastinate or procrastinate less, or when I'm more disciplined? Or and find an exception. In the last month, was there a day when the problem was not 100% powerful? Write down these three details from the day. What was the time? What was the environment? Who were the people? Preparation, body state, thought or small behavior or feelings, and which of those details could you deliberately repeat more, and what difference would it make for you? So even this small exercise can help you to give a lot of clues and insights into what can be changed, even when you think that nothing can be changed. How close are you to the life that you want to have? And suppose that the answer is 4, and why is it not 3? To bring out existing resources, we can try to ask, what would be the smallest sign of 4.5 to define the next step? So how close are you to the life that you want to live, and what would bring you even closer? What are certain things that were helping you to become that person already? Which strategies were you using? Which environments, which routines, which time management strategies you were using? And what did you notice about yourself? And if somebody who is close to you was seeing you from outside, right? What would they notice about you when you are being disciplined, when you are being motivated, inspired, or kind, contributing, whoever you want to be? And solution-focused brief therapy can be brief and empowering, and it shouldn't be caricatured as let's ignore the problem and only talk about the solutions. In solution approach, we are accepting the problem. We don't ignore the problem. And of course, there are situations involving trauma, violence, grief, discrimination, or safety risk. And try and quickly turn the person's pain into something positive can be harmful. But in solution approach, we are validating the person's feeling. We are listening to them. We are understanding. This doesn't mean ignoring the problem. It means seeing the person's resources alongside the suffering, and believing in the people even when they don't believe in themselves, and creating strong connections, strong rapport with the person. Today we learned not just approach, but a way of looking instead of asking ourselves or clients or patients or people around us. Instead of focusing on why am I like this, we can say when am I able to be a little different. And life doesn't always change through considerable transformations. Sometimes it changes through repeating small exceptions that were easy to overlook. When the problem you want to solve becomes a little less powerful, what do you do differently? The smallest difference may be the first sentence of the solution. Words are not chosen randomly in solution-focused approach. We are using language intentionally, using sentences and words in order to help the person to get inspired, to believe in themselves, and to make them feel that we are believing in them, that we are respecting their autonomy. And if we are asking questions, why can't you do this? Why can't I do this? These questions are blames directing the brain towards searching for failure. And this, the impact of digging into problems helps us to notice even more problems, our failures. But when we ask the questions, when I'm able to do this even a little, this helps you to notice resources and possibilities. And none of these questions distort reality. Each simply directs attention towards a different part of it. And in therapeutic conversation, where attention goes, the person's sense of identity can begin to move as well. So this means that we are slowly helping the person to realize how they see, how they view themselves. And once we are able to change this perception of viewing them, all other changes are following. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. And I hope this session was helpful, and see you in the next videos. Take good care of yourself.